Welcome to the MF Network podcast. My name is Sonia Barlow, and today we are going to be talking all things community, tech, and friendships. Just so that you're aware, we do have a member of our panel coming through. We're running a little bit late, and that's completely fine. So if you hear someone or see someone come through, that was already planned. But I am going to really empower our panel guests today to introduce themselves, and then we'll kick off. So Chantal.
Hi, I'm Chantal Lewis. So I'm an inclusive communities consultant. I specialize in the tech space, ensuring that marginalized people feel heard and seen, and also just like take up space. And then I recently launched a community garden initiative that will, focus on like well-being, kind of like team building, but also like an element of food and sustainability. I feel like right now the garden space is like a bit of sustainability, but also affordability as well and accessibility. So kind of bridge my like inclusive hat with my community building hat and like also my love for gardening.
I mean, that's so interesting. We'll unpack all of that abilities in just a second. And Dongwei?
Hi guys, I'm Dongwei. I'm now working in a tech company named By Media. I work in the marketing, business development, and PR. And I also am an ambassador for the LMF network. I help with conferences and the community building. So I really enjoy the LMF network.
Thank you. The first question is, when I started a community in 2018, I didn't really know it was a community. I was like, oh, we're going for brunch, let's have a good time. And then I think over the last 3 years, so we're now in 2023, it's about 2020, I think the word community has been, it's just turned into a buzzword.
Yeah.
Like, I don't really know what it means, if that makes sense, right? So for me, community is coming together and sharing, caring, and learning and leaning in and listening and just being a more consistent, sustainable network. But a community is for me at least, a community is somebody that you are tapping into regularly. It's not a one-stop shop. For me, a community is not someone you're just following online.
Yeah.
How would you define community?
So I would say like you define community for yourself. I think the struggle that I see and the frustration I see is that everyone's trying to be like, oh, there's only like one rule fits all. And I'm like, you can't because, for example, like if I'm creating a community for like a church, for example, that's going to be different to like creating a community for like a youth center because the needs are different. So I think it's like figure out what the needs are, figure out what the longer term objectives are and goals. And then you can kind of like also work with the community itself to like niche it and change it as well. But I feel like defining community as like one sentence is really difficult because community is something new to everyone else. So like for me, like being around friends that love to cook, that's a community, could be gathering. So I think it could be a place of like, common interest, a communal space, a network that like sees each other, like be online as well. But I think it's when you're kind of grabbing around that common interest is maybe the kind of base of what community means.
I think the community like really defines our different people's interest, value. So the same group of people gather together and share the same interest or value. For example, if like someone like this artist, they have a community group to go to the concert, or someone wants to join a tech company, so they join a like tech community, for example, like at network, and they would like share their working experience and the co-working together.
But then am I right in saying or thinking that therefore maybe a community is an in-person thing, or it can be online too?
It can be both, I think.
So Maria is here also. Great, good timing. We were talking about community. I know only our definition of community, but how I think it's changed over time. And the reason why I'm thinking about community is with the launch of apps like Threads or companies or like, oh, we have this community of like 50,000. It's like, but you don't have a community of 50,000. You have a social following of 50,000. They're not your community. You don't know their names every day. You don't reach out to them. You don't have a conversation. And it also makes me think about social media. I don't really find social media social anymore. And I don't really understand the media part because there's so much different media platforms that now exist, different mediums that now exist, that I feel like, for me at least, I'm not having a great time online. And it's not to say my community doesn't exist there. It's to say that there's such noise when it comes to community that I need to take a step back, I think, and just reevaluate what it means to me.
Yeah.
Does anyone feel similar or same way?
Yeah, maybe I can share briefly. So what I've started actually doing is engaging with people.
sending messages, especially like when you run a community, it's through that social media. Especially if you haven't met anyone, right? And then if you send, let's say, for example, LinkedIn, I use LinkedIn a lot. I always love to kind of connect with new people. And then I send them a message, say, hi, introduce myself, and then see if they will be, I would say, happy to have a coffee catch up with me, if they're happy with that. So I think that's kind of like the engagement part of building that community. So I agree with you, like social media actually can be very lonely as well.
And Maria, given that you obviously jumped in the conversation, do you want to give a really brief introduction as to who you are and what you do?
Of course, yes. Hi everyone, my name is Maria, originally from Peru, and I studied here in Warsaw. I work in foreign direct investments, so helping foreign companies to come to the UK. I'm also community builder. I'm set off being surrounded with communities, especially in entrepreneurship, and that's also based in my background. Also, I'm a social entrepreneur, so I run my own social enterprise where I support Indigenous women center root and also to make awareness of Caribbean culture. And so, yeah, that's what's myself.
That's super cool. What do you feel about community, Chantal, especially because you use Twitter? That's quite, as maybe one of your main platforms.
Yeah.
Are you team Twitter? Are you team Threads? Like, where are you?
I mean, they're not sponsoring me, so I'm not going to pick a side. But so I feel like you have a platform. So being a community manager, consultant, we always say, oh, you know, like social media and being a community manager is not the same thing, but you can use them together. So like, I tend to use social media platforms as a tool. And then the community element is like actually me going out the way to engage with people. So I think with Twitter, I use that as a tool and a platform. And then I find people that, you know, for example, I'm on gardening Twitter, I'm on marketing Twitter, there's like a freelance Twitter. So I think if you can find niche communities within the platform, I think that's the community element, but it's for you to actually go find that and like nurture it yourself and foster it yourself. I think the platform itself is not the community, it's the network. And then within the network, you have the community. Yeah.
So in summary, what I'm hearing you both say is the community part is when you actually start having conversations with people and engaging with people and taking them offline.
Yeah.
Versus, or kind of, you know, comparatively, the first part is really you're just following each other.
Yeah, but if you can also be online. It could be like for example, I was running a Slack community of founders that were international. So like some people were, you know, in America, some people were in the Caribbean, other parts of Africa.
So the conversation,
yeah,
conversations are really important when it comes to community. Maria, you touched on the word loneliness, and for me, that's quite an important subject matter when it comes to the forming of finding your community. I mean, LMF was founded because I felt lonely, which is when people look at me, they're like, how can you feel lonely? You have loved ones, you have a family, you have a friendship group, you're at work. And I'm like, yeah, I had all of those things. But for me, the loneliness didn't come from people externally. It came from me internally. It came from I didn't know myself. So I felt like I really lacked that identity. And I was navigating a space that I felt really uncomfortable in, which was predominantly the tech space and the women in tech space. And I just wanted to find my people. And so I would say community to some extent saved my life. And probably launched my career. But it also gave me the foundation I needed when I lost my job, or when I had no income coming in, or when, you know, I'm going through my own like chronic migraines and ADHD diagnosis. And I'm like, okay, let me find the people that have maybe been through this so I can be reassured that I'm not alone and that there's something bigger than me. Dongwei, what about yourself? Do you feel like you were ever at a point where being in the world of tech and doing what you do in the media space, were you ever unsure of who you were, and did your community help you to find that sense of belonging maybe?
Yes, definitely. I always want to work in tech, and I joined different tech communities. For example, LMF and Women in Tech and Women in AI, different communities. And by joining these communities, I found different people have the similar background as me, and they share their work experience to me. And I joined the events. For example, weeks ago, I went to the London Tech Week and the AI Summit. And next week is the London Climate Action Week. And I met the different tech industry people. So they like all encourage me to be like volunteer in their community. So this kind of community and networking helped me go through the unsure about the tech industry to work in tech industry. I'm now working in tech industry. So I think these communities help me in some way to find my route in the different position.
Which is really interesting. So communities can help you when you're going through a niche topic. They can help you to find your sense of self and identity. They can unlock new opportunities for you and provide access. But Maria, you also touched on a point where you said when you connecting people on LinkedIn, you send them a message, say, would you like a virtual coffee? Would you like to meet in person? And so my question to all three of you is, why would someone want to meet you? Like, what is your value add? Why, if you're like idea, right?
No, that's not important. No, let's say, for example, if we have things in common, then we can say, like, I see that we have things in common. What do you think, like, to connect about that, right? So if you're working in the person inclusion in communities, right, and I'm also doing the same, so that's a good reason why I'm going to connect with you, because you also have the same values as me.
But then what do you want from the other person? Because people are now looking at it not only from a value exchange perspective, but starting from where the point of even this discussion, it's noisy and there's a lot of information. A lot of people are just DMing and messaging and wanting to have conversations, which is awesome. But what do you want from someone? And most importantly, what are they getting from you?
Yeah, but I don't also think it's a transaction. And I think the issue I have like right now with like networking events is like, I'm not saying your name, but when I went to an event a few weeks ago, there was a person, I'm not going to say what gender and stuff, but you could tell when someone just wants to, I mean, to be fair, it's like, fine, do your thing, but you tell when someone's just genuinely there just to get the connections and not build the connections. I think there's a difference. Like, getting connections is like just numbers in your phone or emails. Building connections is like actually like knowing someone beyond what the job title is. And I feel like LinkedIn as a platform, it's built for get numbers and emails because you kind of need something from somebody. But I feel like what you're doing with it is more of like, actually, I want to get to know you as a person. So like using the platform to have like a new kind of like meaning to it and put your meaning on it. So things like, comes back to like your purpose. What is your purpose in terms of like people and those kind of relationships? But I think it depends on each person. And I think it's also okay. But if you're honest about your intentions, it's important.
Exactly. I think you need to be very clear with that. And it's not a point that I would like to talk to you because I want to take advantage of you, not at all. It's more about like how we can connect. I say it in that way, for example. So when I was working for an impact hub in Singapore, I remember like every time there was a new member, like I was like, I would love to meet the new person because you never know, like maybe especially in entrepreneurship, when you start, like you may not have that entrepreneurial community and it's difficult, right? But you also think it depends on the personality as well. So I'm also a very open-minded person and I love cultures, and I think because I had also the experience of working abroad, it really helped me to understand, how cultures works in different places. So I think going back to her point as well is more about the connection side. So, and like how we can learn from each other, how we can support from each other. So
I love the fact that you all are so optimistic and positive about communities, and there's definitely an angle to that. But if we were to really be quite honest with ourselves, what do we find icky?
Oh, I'm ready.
Wait, do you know what's up there? What do you find icky when it comes to communities? And also, do you think communities are an excuse? Now, I work a lot in the D&I space, and obviously LMF is a community. And we find that companies want to tap into our community, which we have one, and we're very engaged, but they don't want to do the work on their side. And then it feels like they're taking advantage of you because they're not supporting and building up your community. They're wanting to take lessons from your community and not putting the effort, the time, the commitment, the investment. I also think that the stats around women and women in tech are not changing, right? We haven't got more in terms of numbers, but the talent definitely does exist. And then what individuals do is they think, oh, let's form another community. And it's like, well, there's already so many communities that exist. Why don't you just take what you want to do into that and form something bigger or bolder than try and do it alone? Because it's more complicated. Yes. And then the third thing, and I think this is where my in comes in, is the very like transactional feel of a community. And also the cliquey feel. There are some communities that seem very cliquey. And I think the point of a community is not to be making a clique where you're excluding other people, but it's to come and find your own people and sense of self and see how you can naturally add value. And I don't know, maybe I'm not really into high school politics, but I find that also in the community space, you have cliques and you have hierarchies. And I'm like, this is kind of going against what you're all trying to preach. I can see Chantal just smiling.
Yes, I'm ready to fight. I love it. You ready? Okay. So I've been doing like a lot of like one-to-one consultations with people like that are community professionals. And I've got a list, are you ready for the list? So the first issue I have is a lot of the community leaders are very homogenous. So you either having, I'll call it out, but it's usually like either a white man or white woman. And then it's like, okay, like if you're the face of a community, are you really going to be set up well to engage and also attract the right, like, inclusive backgrounds and intersectional backgrounds? And I avoid the word diverse because I don't feel like people can be diverse. Like, we're humans at the end of the day. When we use the word diverse, it's usually like a term of like othering up people. But
Actually, yeah, you are diverse if you are non-white.
right, and we kind of say
That's too.
yeah, right. And so it's like, why don't we just specify who we're talking about, you know? And so I don't want to kind of cover all the non-white people with the word diverse. So I try to avoid that at all costs. So like the whole homogeneity of the communities is what annoys me the most. And then there's a bit of tokenism that goes on a lot. And so it's like, oh, I want to bring in someone that's, you know, a POC. And it's like, what's going to put a label and bracket in a whole group of people? Who do you mean? And then it's like, you got to break that down a bit further. And like, okay, like, do you mean someone that's queer, someone that's Black, someone that's South Asian, someone that came from like a low income family? Like, who do you want to attract?
And why?
And why? Yeah.
Why was really important.
Yeah.
Like, but what's your intention when it comes to attracting them?
Yeah. And there's actually like a Bell Hooks quote, and it speaks about like when she was speaking to white women, they were like, oh, I want to, you know, include Black women. And then her kind of conclusion was kind of like, okay, so like you want to include us as if you're the leader of the space, as if you're the host inviting us as guests. But why don't we already exist in that space? So it's like, when we're creating this space, and the big thing I say to clients is, are you the right person to lead that space? And are you leading it based on ego? And can you remove that ego? And even if you are bringing people in, can you partner with them? So like, for example, I feel like people like come back to your point, Sonia, it's like, everyone's being leader of a space, but actually there's spaces that already exist. Yeah. So can you collaborate with an existing community and lend a hand to them or support? Can you invest in that community? You don't have to always be the leader of a community. So I think that's one of my icks, but I have so many icks.
Illustrations and maybe another better word than it.
I think it really depends what you want to get from the community. And for me, I found like my interest in music and art. I really like enjoy like going to the concert or the art gallery with the community people. And I also want to join the different community like related to the career. And I want to, for example, change the industry what I'm working with. And I always ask people for their working experience or their insights. They always like really want to share with me. So I didn't find something in
But that's good. And
Yeah, that's good.
Also, hearing what you're saying is you're not putting like a commercial profile on a community. You're literally going out and saying, where are my people? Do my people exist? Okay, if not, let me find my people. If my people are here, let's go do more stuff as people. And you're really putting that human touch. You're not going in being like, I'm going to go to this networking event. I'm going to go find a community. I'm going to land a job. You're like, let's see if there's something in common. Yeah, it's fine.
So I'm part of many community groups, okay, in different countries, especially in London. So I started volunteering for Future Founders communities, so supporting entrepreneurs in the UK, many in London. And I feel with this community, honestly, like it's the first community where I feel like I can ask anything, and then people are so willing to provide advice, to talk to you, even, you know, you never met before. And I, hi, yes, of course, because I was asking about, for example, freelancing. And I was like, if anyone has an experience in your mind, if I can have a chat with you. And I had like 10 people who wrote me and they were like, yeah, of course, we're happy to chat with you, blah, blah. And I was like, that's community, that is kind of integration, supporting each other, not just like competition. Like, I feel like for me, especially in entrepreneurship, right? We feel like, okay, you know, we're running different business, but it's always like, how we can support each other? How can we become, for me, it's like, when I connect, especially with someone, I feel like, how can I support you? You know, how can I maybe connect you with someone? Maybe if you need mentorship, I can connect you with a platform, right? Because I've been through that pain, and perhaps I kind of developed this, I would say, soft skills. And so I always put in people's shoes, always.
I would say softer skills. And I would say that maybe the 4 people on this episode, we lack therefore the perspective of someone who isn't from a social background. And it seems like we're all some kind of social impact advocates or social entrepreneurs, or, you know, feel that it's really important for us to give back our learnings to the next generation or learn from the generation above. That's not that's not everyone.
Yeah, but also I have a bit of a caveat because I'm a former and recovery in terms of like people pleaser. And so I put a big emphasis on boundaries in communities, because I feel like when it comes to people of color, they're always expected to do certain things, and it's actually okay to say no. And so I'm always telling my friends, like, repeat after me, say no.
teach me how to say no. And then what would that be? How do you say no to someone in person, and how do you say no to someone online? And don't wait. Compared to us three, you also work full time for a business, and so your formation of community has to have also a commercial lens, professional landscape. Yeah. It's how you bring in that business opportunity. Yeah. How do you set boundaries? How do you say no? And also, how do you overcome rejection? Because not everybody wants to be a part of your business community, right? Because they don't need your products or services.
And so I help the company to do the business development, and I need to get in touch with different founders or leaders every day, and to grow our company. So when I approach to them, and I will try different ways to see if there's any mutual partnership, to benefit each other. So sometimes if it doesn't work out, and it's fine. And I think it's really somewhere else I can find in different ways. So if they reject me, so I will approach in different people. So I keep this connection for the future. So if there's something else like services or other partnerships, I can also connect with them. Or we also will organize an event in August. So I can also invite them to our community event to share, to join, and to keep this connection.
And so, Maria, in the work that you do, how do you say no? How do you set boundaries?
I think there are different ways how you can say no, right? And I think that's something as part of the culture as well. There are some, let's say, I don't want to say, but in my experience, I had experience saying no, let's say from a Latino background, or no, living in China, right? So I think the most important thing is being honest and just tell the person I would love to support you, for example, but right now I don't have capacity, and maybe I'm further with someone who can assist you with this, right? So I think there are different ways how to say it. But I think always the honesty is one of the main points, because I feel for me, I would appreciate if someone can be honest and tell me, instead of being quiet and then not agree, right? Because that's no, I think, how can I read your mind? I cannot. Right? So talk to me about it. But I think there are ways how we can say things. I've been through situations where, especially being a female, I would say, community builder, remembering Latin America, I had to ask, whenever I'm in these workshops for the indigenous women, I had to ask their husband for permission. And I think for me, it was even a culture, a little bit shock, because I didn't grow up in Peru, I grew up in Spain. And so I think in that point, it's just the culture behind, right? So, and one of the ways how you can do it is when you build communities in different countries, because you understand more, right? It's you immerse yourself in the culture. So that's my experience I can share.
And it's such an interesting point you raised there, because if we bring it back to community building, especially from a commercial landscape, companies are thinking we're going to build a community, and then we're going to go out and attract talent, and then we're going to get the woman into work, and then we're winning. And it's well, actually, no, because you're not investing in their development, you're not focusing on retention, they don't feel like they're culturally able to fit into the taste. Most of your events are still around alcohol. Are we not over that by now? And I think more than that, this company has a massive social following, and so their community must be engaged and vibrant. That's not true. Your numbers that you see outwardly don't reflect the experiences that you have with one-to-one engagement. And so I think for me, at least, a lot of marketing companies, a lot of campaigns, a lot of businesses that reach out to us, when they're we want to work with that MF network, I'm that's great, you want to work with us, but do we want to work with you?
That part. Yes, I just said.
The values as well as the company.
Exactly.
Right?
And there's a big but. I didn't always do that. At the beginning, we worked with anyone and everyone. We said yes, we branched out, we franchised. A lot of that was running before we could walk, but also getting super excited, which is great, but not really understanding the community. I then took a step back, and I would say I was exhausted for a bit, and we slowed down for a good time period. And then we started back up. So this year in 2023, we're doing monthly co-working events and breakfast. It's one day a month where I'm look, in London or other locations around the UK, let's just meet up and let me hear what you all want rather than me assuming. Being in positions where companies are reaching out to us, we want to do something for International Women's Day. That's cool, but why are you reaching out to us a week before International Women's Day? You've known this in your calendar for months. What's your budget? We don't have a budget. Well, that's not okay, because it's not fair to be bringing along the network, the connections, the black book, the people, the experience, and you not investing in either developing them or sponsoring the work we're doing. And actually last year I had to let go of a client because they were working with us and they put it on their marketing material as soon as they said something, but it took them 9 months to pay their invoice.
9 months.
And it was super disrespectful by email. But they put the marketing assets out there to be like, we're working with the LMS network community. But actually, you're not working with us, you're using us. And so I really started to set boundaries. And now when companies approach me, I'm like, that's great, you want to develop in the community, but what's the benefit to them? How are we going to invest in the development of our people? What is the value add for us? What is the value add for you? What efforts are you putting in? Time, money, investment, sponsorship, and what do you expect from us? Oh, we want to tap into your data. Okay, well, there's data rules around that, but also I've spent 3 to 5 years. I've spent 5 years making solid connections in industry. I've known you for 5 seconds. I'm not going to give up the trust I feel for this if you're not able to prove that we're actually going into this like relationship together.
I think in that point, for example, I would say when you see the red flags, and that's when you need to take a step back and be like, okay, because at the end of the day, don't tell me, show me. Show me that you're supporting the community. Show me that you want to get involved. Show me this, right? So they can share all these things like, yes, we love women empowerment, this, amazing. But show me the proof, right? So if you want to be part of this, then get involved with our events, volunteer, right?
That's the way. But let me talk to your people.
Tell me, I'm going to pay you 1,000 pounds, whatever, so I can be, I don't know, a sponsor, whatever. Okay, great. But then be part of this, That's what I've done as well.
I think it's the authenticity of it all. I feel like a lot of companies are very performative, and when they see people of color like do really well in certain things, they want to come and leverage, like put, I don't know, but I call them like a bit of a leash. They want to leash onto you, and it makes them look really great. But then I think you have to ask them, okay, like what Becky says, Sonia, what do I benefit from this? And I think when you see yourself as a two-way street, it's really, really great. And I think often, but also comes back to your purpose. Like if your purpose as an owner, as like an owner or entrepreneur is to make money, say it to yourself and that's absolutely fine. But then that's going to attract certain energies. And so like you will get people that are performative because your energy you're putting out is desperate and want money. But if your purpose is to create real impact and be very intentional with it, then your energy is going to be so different. It's going to attract the right people. So I think it's like, be honest with yourself and say, actually, money is my intention. And if it's not, that's fine. But be honest about it. And then you can kind of really filter out the clients that come through that. But I think it comes back kind of sometimes to like financial freedom. Like once you've like laid the foundation where you're like, okay, I know this works. This is a great product, service, experience. Then you can start to like filter it out after all. But I think when you start out, it's a bit of like kind of have to bite your tongue a little bit and be like, okay, like let's just get this one client for now. Get this, the case study, the testimonials, and then once we've like got the money a bit, then we can kind of go to the next one. But something you got to build a foundation, unfortunately.
So one thing that I really want to do as we come to the end of our discussion is I wanted to do a would you rather game.
Oh, okay.
And I'm like, yes, it is now. It's not really working. But these are quick and fire round of quick questions that I'm just going to fireside chat. So based on the fact that you have brought up money, and we've kind of flowed into that money conversation, would you rather earn more money and be busier, or earn less money and have more time to yourself?
Do you know what? Less money and have more time for myself, because you know what? When you travel a lot, so I think we missed a bit about travel, but when you travel, you realize that actually life is not that expensive. We just make it expensive because we're very materialistic people and also very like capitalist people. But yeah, give me less money and I'll travel the world with it.
Yourselves?
Let's pay that one. The wellness, less money for sure, because again, money doesn't buy your experience, money doesn't buy your wellness, your mental health. So yeah, it's not like I experienced this, and I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying that, but if I will have the option, then yes.
And you're in business development. Give me the money. Pay my bills. Wait, they're busy, more money, less money, more time to that.
For now, my current state will be like more busy, more money.
And it's okay.
Previously, I studied in MBA, and at that time I have a career break for like over a year. So I really experienced the UK and Europe and the global, and have the projects with my classmates, and also travel the world to see different companies, like have the consulting project. At that period, I think less money and more time will be more enjoyable for my study experience. So for now, I'm a working professional now. So I think busy.
Not the part that you're like getting all blush. Yeah. Next question, because we're going to just speed through this.
Yeah.
On the topic of community, would you rather have a lot of acquaintances or just a few close friends?
Close friends.
Close friends.
But were you always like that?
Oh, they go
In my early 20s, I thought my acquaintances were all my friends. And then I realized I had no friends and I had no acquaintances. And then I built the LMF network, and I was like, we're all going to be besties one day. And then I've realized that recently, as I've grown older, one, sometimes I'm like, why does this person not want to be my friend? Like, I'm a great friend. And I also have people-pleasing tendencies. So there's a point 2 years ago where I was like, why is this person not replying back to me? Why don't they want to be my friend? I've asked them for a coffee every single month and they just don't want to go for coffee with me. And at some point, I was like, am I a bag? Oh, yes. It's on the bag. It's like, maybe I'm not a the bag. Let me go and work on myself.
Yeah.
And let me not seek validation from other people. And then once I worked on myself, and I was comfortable in who I am and confident in my newfound identity as an entrepreneur, and I was happy to take decisions, I was like, actually, I'd rather have a few close friends and family members, because my family members are also my friends, than a lot of acquaintances that you're just seeing on the surface, but you don't really have depth with.
Yeah.
Anyone else?
It happened to me, and especially with like close friends as well. And I think if you really have that trust, you can ask also why they're doing this. You can understand, kind of having a feedback. You can also make them feel like I'm open for feedback. I have my weaknesses, my strength. So if you're happy to share with me, why maybe you have stopped talking to me, then it would be appreciated. But I think it depends. But if there's not like a lot of trust, perhaps like, of course, you value yourself, right? And if someone really loves you as a person, they will tell you why. Sometimes.
Yeah. But I think that's so sweet though. Like that's such a sweet approach. I think maybe because I'm so bad. Maybe I'm a Leo. No, I'm a Leo, so like we burn bridges. I think when you get a bit older, maybe like you learn to know like take people as they are, and it's actually okay. So like one thing I did last year was like just start to set boundaries for myself, for like being a people pleaser. Like don't always reach out all the time. Like when you stop reaching out, you realize, oh wait, people are not reaching out to you. That's okay. But then also you realize actually like kind of letting people set free, they will come back when they're ready. And like people have their own mental health issues and stuff, or things going on, and we don't know what people are going through. And sometimes like there's a lot of noise on social media, WhatsApp, chat, groups, your mom's texting you, your uncle's you know what I mean? So like it's important to let people just be free, and then like we don't own anybody. So like let them do their thing, and then they'll come back on it if they need to.
Last question. Would you rather spend a month without WhatsApp
Okay.
or without LinkedIn?
That's
Definitely.
Which you rather spend 1 month without LinkedIn,
Yes.
or spend 1 month without WhatsApp?
without LinkedIn, because with WhatsApp I use it for family stuff, because like I don't use Facebook, so it's the only way I can communicate with family that's like abroad. So I would have to live without LinkedIn. I'll be alright, to be fair.
Yeah, I think I will also link. Yeah, because I feel like WhatsApp, I have more.
I'm like, no, I'm so sensitive to LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I think WhatsApp for me.
That's fun. And I think, right, but you like opposite. That is so great. It breaks it. It was sorry.
Because I also use different like WeChat.
That was but because would you rather have a month of WeChat or a month of like OFF LinkedIn?
This is so tough. You block everything. So hard to choose.
You gotta choose one.
WeChat is everything.
You know.
The struggle as well. You're still gonna say WeChat, and you're like, I love LinkedIn.
Yeah.
That's the case. That's good.
I think you gotta own it.
So as we wrap up, I'm super thankful for you for being here. And my final question for everyone: kind of share this with all the passion and might that you can, and in the studio to the camera if you want, and hopefully to the people listening. What is the one piece of career advice that you would give to your younger self when you were looking for your community?
I would say believing in yourself, trusting in yourself, and growing. I would say getting to know more yourself as well.
I think I really need to be really strong self-awareness. Like, what's the current stage are you in? Are you a student? Do you want to find communities related to young professionals, or are you in the early career or really stable career, and find different communities around your interest and around your stage? Yeah, and try to approach different communities, like either event or online. Try to go to networking in different industry events related to your career or related to your interest. Yeah.
Yes, I think literally from yesterday. So I was speaking at a non-profit organization for young people, and for a very long time I kind of hid that I had a speech disability, and I was just always scared to mention it because I was people might look at me really funny. And then I think I mentioned because there's a question about are you doing what you thought you would do now as a young person? And I was like, oh my gosh, like when I was 10, I would never thought that I'll be public speaking. And then I remember after the event, a younger person came up to me. She was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for sharing that, because I also have a speech impairment, and just seeing you public speak gives me a lot of confidence. I think the advice I would give to my old self would be show up and take up space, regardless if you start through something, that's absolutely fine, but just be present because you don't know who you're inspiring. Yeah. How about you, Sonia?
Oh, I need to answer too?
Yeah.
I did it to my younger self. I'd probably just say, you're good enough. 100%, short and simple. You're good enough. You're good. Keep getting better.
Yeah.
Evolution and improvement is really important, but you're good enough. And I think, everyone has a moment of insecurity, regardless of who you are and where you come from. It's you are good enough in who you are today, but it's really important to keep on improving.
Yeah.
And on that note, thank you so much for being here with us. This is the LMF Network podcast. My name is Sonia Barlow. You can subscribe, and obviously share with all of your networking communities. You can send in your questions, your DMs, or get involved, be a panel guest or sponsor, by emailing hello@lmfnetwork.com. And you can listen to all of our episodes on Apple and Spotify and watch them all on YouTube. And to my guest, thank you so much for being here.